Human DNA confused the entire Galactic Science Council. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way's Orion Arm, approximately 12 parsecs from what humans called the Goldilocks Zone, the Galactic Science Council maintained its headquarters, a massive ring-shaped space station that resembled a gleaming silver donut with bite-sized chunks missing. These chunks were actually specialized docking bays designed to accommodate the wildly different vessels of the Council's 217-member species. The station rotated slowly, creating artificial gravity through centrifugal force, a primitive but reliable technology that even the most anatomically diverse species could tolerate, if not enjoy. The Council's central chamber was an architectural marvel of compromise. The ceiling stretched nearly 30 meters high to accommodate the towering Zildathi representatives, while the floor contained specialized moisture vents for the semi-aquatic gloparians. Temperature-controlled environment bubbles dotted the perimeter for species requiring extreme heat or cold, and a complex system of atmospheric filters ensured that nobody accidentally poisoned anyone else through normal respiratory functions, which had happened 3 times during the early years of the Council, resulting in 17 diplomatic incidents and 1 minor interstellar war. Today, the central chamber buzzed with an unusual level of activity. Representatives from 63 different species had assembled for an emergency session, the first such meeting in over 27 standard cycles. Even the notoriously reclusive Vroon had sent their ambassador, though they insisted on participating, via a remotely controlled drone that emitted pleasant floral scents when they agreed with something, and noxious sulfuric compounds when they objected. At the center of the chamber, floating gracefully in their anti-gravity suspension field, High Counselor Zrixa of the Floxian Dominion called the session to order. Zrixa's 7 eyes blinked in sequential order, a sign of extreme stress among Floxians, as their voice reverberated through the chamber's acoustically perfect sound system. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Science Council, we are gathered today to address a matter of unprecedented scientific anomaly, Zrixa announced, their translucent tentacles waving in the formal pattern that denoted serious official business. As you are all aware, 27 standard cycles ago, we discovered a previously unknown sentient species on the 3rd planet of an unremarkable G-type main sequence star in Sector 8472. We have been observing them since then, collecting data, and preparing for eventual first contact as outlined in Protocol 372B for emerging civilizations. The Vroon drone emitted a pleasant jasmine scent, indicating agreement with this summary of events. Several other representatives nodded, blinked, vibrated, or otherwise signaled their understanding according to their species' customs. However, Zrixa continued, their voice dropping to a lower register, our xenobiological research team has encountered something that defies all established scientific principles, something so inexplicable that it has thrown our most brilliant minds into complete disarray. They paused for dramatic effect, a habit they had picked up from watching intercepted human television broadcasts. I present to you Chief Xenobiologist Krill of the Danebian Science Academy. A hunched figure scuttled forward on 6 spindly legs. Chief Xenobiologist Krill resembled what humans might describe as a cross between a praying mantis and a porcupine, though such comparison would be considered highly offensive in Danebian culture. His exoskeleton was a deep blue with occasional patches of bioluminescent green that pulsed with his agitated state. Esteemed colleagues, Krill began, his mandibles clicking nervously. For the past 12 cycles, I have led the research initiative on human biology. We have collected thousands of samples, shed skin cells, hair follicles, bodily fluids, all gathered non-invasively according to Protocol 372B, subsection 47, paragraph 12, which strictly prohibits direct interference with subjects under observation. The Trilaxian representative interrupted with a series of high-pitched whistles that the translation system rendered as, "Get to the point, Krill. Some of us are approaching our 5th metamorphosis and would prefer to complete this meeting before our exoskeletons begin to harden." Krill's antennae flattened against his head in embarrassment. Yes, of course. The point is this. Human DNA makes absolutely no sense. A wave of murmurs, Clicks and various biological sounds of surprise rippled through the chamber. The Vroon drone emitted a pungent odor similar to rotting vegetation, indicating profound skepticism. "Allow me to elaborate," Krill continued, tapping a complex sequence into the holographic interface floating before him. A massive three-dimensional projection of a DNA double helix appeared above the central platform. "This is human DNA. As you can see, it appears to follow the standard carbon-based genetic encoding pattern common to many life forms throughout the galaxy. However, when we began to analyze its functional structure, we discovered something impossible. The wow projection zoomed in to show specific segments of the DNA strand, which Krill highlighted with a wave of his upper appendage. Approximately 98.5% of human DNA appears to have no function whatsoever. None. It's as if their genetic code is filled with random, useless information. In all other species we've studied, genetic material evolves to be efficient, encoding only what is necessary for survival, reproduction, and species-specific adaptations. But humans carry an enormous amount of what appears to be completely nonsensical genetic baggage. The Arborian representative, a sentient fungal colony that communicated through spore patterns, released a cloud that the translation system interpreted as, perhaps their evolution followed a different path. Many species retain vestigial genes from evolutionary ancestors. Krill's bioluminescent patches flashed in what his colleagues recognized as the Denebian equivalent of exasperation. That was our first hypothesis as well. But the amount of non-coding DNA is unprecedented. Furthermore, some segments appear to be, well, there's no scientific way to put this. They appear to be engineered. The chamber erupted in sounds of disbelief. Even High Counselor Zrixa's tentacles froze mid-wave. "Engineered?" demanded the representative from the Silicon consciousness, their synthetic voice perfectly modulated to express incredulity. "Are you suggesting these humans are artificial constructs?" "No, not entirely artificial," Krill clarified. "The basic building blocks follow natural evolutionary patterns, but certain sequences show signs of precise arrangement that statistical models indicate could not have occurred randomly or through standard evolutionary processes. It's as if someone took a naturally evolved species and tinkered with it." The Vroon drone now emitted an odor so foul that the atmospheric filters kicked into emergency mode, working overtime to neutralize it. "This is why I've recommended we accelerate our first contact timeline," Krill concluded. "We need to study living human specimens directly. We need to understand what they are and how they came to be. Most importantly, we need to determine if they pose any threat to galactic stability." High Counselor Zrixa resumed their tentacle waving, now in the pattern that indicated thoughtful consideration. "This is indeed troubling. According to Protocol 372b, we should wait another 15 cycles before initiating first contact. The humans have not yet achieved reliable interstellar travel, and their social structures remain problematic." "With all due respect, High Counselor," Krill interjected, "Protocol 372b was designed for naturally evolved species. If humans are indeed some form of engineered life, then Protocol 415d for artificially enhanced organisms would apply, which allows for expedited contact procedures." The chamber fell silent as the representatives processed this information. After several moments, the Malkadorian representative, a being composed primarily of crystalline structures that refracted light in hypnotic patterns, spoke up. "I propose a compromise. Rather than full-scale first contact, we could extract a single human specimen for study. Once we understand the anomaly, we can make a more informed decision about wider contact." Zrixa's tentacles. "Individual capability is irrelevant," Krill stated flatly. "If humans are indeed engineered organisms, the question becomes, engineered by whom and for what purpose? The universe is very old, Dave Collins, and not all ancient species had benevolent intentions." Dave felt his head swimming with implications. "So what happens now? How long are you planning to keep me here?" "A standard research cycle," Krill replied. "Approximately 30 Earth days. Then, depending on our findings, you will either be returned to your home with no memory of these events or what? Dave prompted when Krill didn't continue. Lyra shot Krill what appeared to be a warning look. Or the council will determine the next appropriate steps. But let's not worry about that now. You must be hungry after your unexpected interstellar journey. I've studied human nutritional requirements and prepared something compatible with your digestive system. She gestured toward what looked like a small countertop that Dave hadn't noticed before. A covered dish sat upon it. I'll return later to begin the preliminary scans, Krill said, moving toward the door. Liaison Lyra will see to your immediate needs. After Krill departed, Dave turned to Lyra. He didn't finish that sentence. What happens if you decide I'm some kind of threat? Lyra's expression softened. Standard protocol would call for extended quarantine and possible memory adjustment before reintegration. Memory adjustment? You mean wiping my brain? More like selective editing, but I wouldn't worry about that. In my professional opinion, you seem about as threatening as a Venusian puff cloud, and they're basically sentient cotton candy. Dave wasn't sure if that was reassuring or not. He approached the dish Lyra had mentioned, lifting the cover to find what appeared to be a sandwich, albeit with oddly colored bread and filling. It's a protein-carbohydrate combination based on your species' dietary patterns, Lyra explained. The colors might seem strange, but I assure you it's perfectly compatible with human biochemistry. We've been studying your species for some time. Dave cautiously took a bite. It tasted surprisingly like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, though. The jelly had an aftertaste reminiscent of blueberries and cinnamon. Not bad, he admitted. So you've been watching Earth? For how long? The Council discovered Earth approximately 27 standard cycles ago, about 35 Earth years. We've maintained observation satellites in your solar system. Since then, collecting data and monitoring your development. Dave took another bite, trying to process everything. And in all that time, you never made contact? Why now? Lyra hesitated. The anomalies in human DNA have been a subject of debate for years, but recent analysis revealed patterns that concerned certain council members. There was a vote, and here we are. What kind of patterns? That's what we're hoping to find out through our research. Some sequences appear to be dormant coding, genetic instructions that exist but aren't currently active. Like genetic time bombs? Dave asked, suddenly less interested in his alien sandwich. That's a rather dramatic interpretation, but not entirely inaccurate, Lyra admitted, though it's equally possible they're benign adaptations waiting for specific environmental triggers. Dave set down the remainder of his sandwich, his appetite diminishing. So, I'm stuck here for a month while you figure out if humans are secretly alien doomsday devices? When you put it that way, it does sound rather ominous, Lyra said with a grimace. But I prefer to see it as an opportunity for unprecedented scientific discovery. And who knows? Perhaps we'll find that humans are actually something quite remarkable, in a positive way. That would be a nice change, Dave muttered. So what happens during these non-invasive tests? Various scanning procedures mostly. Analysis of your cellular structure, brain activity, physiological responses to controlled stimuli. Nothing painful, I assure you. And I just have to sit here in this room for a month? Lyra looked surprised. Oh no, that would be terribly boring for both of us. Once Chief Krill completes the preliminary assessments, you'll be granted access to certain areas of the ship under supervision. We've even prepared an Earth culture simulation room based on our observations, though I should warn you it might seem a bit off. Interpreting human cultural nuances has proven challenging. Dave couldn't help but feel curious despite his situation. How so? Well, for instance, we were quite confused by your species' practice of keeping small predators in your living spaces. Our researchers couldn't determine if cats were pets, religious icons, or some form of living security system. Despite everything, Dave found himself laughing. To be fair, I think cats themselves are confused about that too. Lyra's expression brightened. Excellent. You're maintaining your sense of humor, which our research suggests is a positive coping mechanism for humans under stress. I think we're going to work well together, Dave Collins. Dave wasn't so sure about that, but he recognized that his options were limited. He was on an alien spaceship, light years from home, about to be studied like a lab rat because his DNA apparently didn't make sense. As Tuesdays went, this was definitely the strangest one he'd ever experienced. "One more question," Dave said. "My cat, Schrödinger, who's going to feed him while I'm gone?" Lyra tilted her head. "You named your predator after a quantum physicist who proposed a famous thought experiment involving a cat in a state of quantum superposition. That's actually quite clever. Yeah, that's totally why I named him that," Dave lied, not wanting to admit he'd found the cat near a physics building on the local community college campus and thought the name sounded sophisticated. But seriously, he needs to be fed. "Not to worry," Lyra assured him. "We've deployed a domestic maintenance drone to your residence. Your cat will be cared for, and your absence has been accounted for with a fabricated emergency family situation requiring immediate travel. Your employer has been notified accordingly." Dave sighed. "Great. So I've been abducted by aliens who are also identity thieves. Perfect." Lyra looked confused. "Is that not preferable to your social connections believing you've disappeared under suspicious circumstances?" "I guess," Dave conceded. "It's just a lot to process, you know? This morning I was just regular Dave Collins, assistant manager at Supertech. Now I'm potentially some kind of genetically engineered mystery being studied by the galaxy's top scientists." "If it helps," Lyra offered kindly. "In my experience, most people are more complicated than they appear on the surface, across all species. Perhaps you were never just regular Dave Collins to begin with." With that oddly comforting yet unsettling thought, Dave finished his alien peanut butter and jelly sandwich and prepared himself for what would undoubtedly be the strangest month of his life. The next several days, aboard the Empirical Curiosity, passed in a blur of examinations, scans, and increasingly bizarre conversations. True to Lyra's word, the tests were painless, if somewhat undignified. Dave found himself standing in various scanners wearing nothing but what appeared to be a paper-thin bodysuit that changed color based on his body temperature, a feature he found both fascinating and slightly embarrassing. Chief xenobiologist, Krill remained clinical and detached throughout the process, treating Dave more like an interesting specimen than a sentient being. Other members of the research team varied in their approach. Some were coldly scientific, others openly curious about Earth culture and human behavior. Dave quickly learned that the galactic community was as diverse in personality as it was in biology. By the fifth day, the novelty of being an alien research subject had worn thin, and Dave found himself growing restless in his quarters, despite the various entertainment options Lyra had provided. Mostly Earth media that the Council had intercepted and archived over the years, though their collection stopped around 2007, leaving Dave with a strange nostalgia for flip phones and early reality television. "I need to get out of this room," Dave told Lyra when she arrived with his morning meal, a concoction that approximated scrambled eggs but had the color and texture of blue cottage cheese. "I'm going stir-crazy in here." Lyra consulted something on her translucent tablet-like device. "According to Chief Krill's notes, your preliminary assessments are complete. I believe we can arrange a supervised tour of permitted areas today." "That would be great," Dave said, poking skeptically at his blue not-quite eggs. "No offense to your culinary efforts, but I'm also getting tired of alien approximations of Earth food. Don't you have your own food I could try? Something actually meant to be blue?" Lyra looked surprised. Most species are extremely hesitant to consume foreign biochemistry, but if you're interested in xenogastronomy, I could arrange something from the ship's galley. There are several dishes that should be compatible with human digestive systems. "At this point, I'd try just about anything for a change of pace," Dave assured her. After finishing his breakfast, which tasted better than it looked, though that wasn't saying much, Dave was provided with what Lyra called standard visitor attire, a jumpsuit similar to hers but in a muted gray rather than the shifting colors of her uniform. "The color designates your status as a research subject," she explained as they exited his quarters. "It also contains biosensors that monitor your vital signs and a location tracker. So it's stylish and creepy. Got it." The corridors of the ship were curved and seamless, with lighting that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves rather than any visible fixtures. The floor had a slight give to it, almost like walking, on dense memory foam. Occasionally, they passed other crew members, a dizzying variety of beings that made Dave's head spin with their alien physiologies. "How many different species are on this ship?" he asked, after they passed what appeared to be a floating cloud of purple gas contained within a transparent mobile unit. "The Empirical Curiosity has representatives from 23 council species," Lyra answered, "though the primary research team working on your case consists of only 7 specialists from fields relevant to xenobiology and genetics." "And what species are you?" Dave asked, realizing he hadn't thought to ask before. "You look almost human compared to some of the others." "I'm Althean," Lyra replied. "My species evolved on a planet with similar conditions to Earth, though with higher oxygen content and slightly lower gravity. We're what xenobiologists call convergent humanoids, species that independently evolved similar body structures. It's why I was selected as your liaison. Our research suggested humans might find my appearance less disorienting than some alternatives." "They weren't wrong," Dave admitted. "No offense to Chief Krill, but waking up to a giant blue praying mantis hovering over my bed wasn't the gentlest introduction to alien life." Lyra made a sound that Dave had come to recognize as her version of laughter. "Denebians are brilliant scientists, but somewhat lacking in what you might call bedside manner. This way. I want to show you the observation deck first. It offers quite a spectacular view." She led him through a series of corridors and up what appeared to be a gravity lift, a tube of energy that gently pulled them upward to a higher level of the ship. As they emerged onto the observation deck, Dave felt his breath catch in his throat. The entire forward section of the deck was transparent, offering an unobstructed view of space, and what a view it was. Stars spread out in a dazzling panorama, more numerous and brilliant than Dave had ever seen from Earth. In the distance, a nebula cast purple and blue light across one section of space, its swirling gases forming what looked almost like a cosmic flower blooming in the void. "That's the Helix Nebula," Lyra explained, noting his awestruck expression. "We're approximately 12 light-years from Earth now." 12 light-years? Dave repeated, stunned. "But I've only been here for 5 days." "The Empirical Curiosity utilizes a fold space drive for interstellar travel. It essentially creates a temporary dimensional shortcut between 2 points in space-time." "Like a wormhole?" "A crude approximation, but yes, similar concept," Lyra agreed. "Though considerably more stable and precisely controlled than the theoretical wormholes described in human physics." Dave moved closer to the transparent barrier, placing his palm against it. It felt solid, but warm. Nothing like the cold glass he had expected. "So I'm looking at stars that no human has ever seen with the naked eye before." "Indeed. You're the first of your species to travel this far into space. Another historic distinction for Dave Collins, assistant manager at Supertech." Dave couldn't help but smile at her gentle teasing. Despite his circumstances, he had to admit there was something incredible about this experience. How many people dreamed of seeing the stars up close, of encountering alien life? The fact that it had happened to him, possibly the least exceptional person he knew, seemed like some cosmic joke. His moment of wonder was interrupted when the deck's entrance slid open, admitting Chief Krill and another alien Dave hadn't met before. A being with silvery, scale-like skin and elongated limbs that moved with fluid grace. "Ah, the human is touring the facility," Krill observed. "Good. Physical movement appears beneficial for your species' psychological well-being, according to our observations." "We have a word for that," Dave said dryly. "It's called cabin fever. Humans don't do well locked in small rooms for days on end." "Fascinating," said the silver-scaled being, its voice melodic and flowing like water. "Your species developed terminology for the psychological impact of confinement, yet you continue to utilize such conditions as punishment in your penal systems. Contradictory." "That's humans for you," Dave shrugged. "We're full of contradictions." "Indeed," the being replied. "I am Dr. Sullick, neurological specialist. Your brain patterns have proven most interesting in our preliminary scans." "My brain patterns? What's weird about my brain?" Krill and Salik exchanged a look that Dave couldn't interpret. Lyra shifted uncomfortably beside him. Perhaps this isn't the ideal setting for such discussions, she suggested. Dave is simply enjoying his first view of deep space. On the contrary, Krill countered, the human should be informed of our findings as they develop. Transparency fosters cooperation. Dr. Silic turned back to Dave. Human brains show unusual activity in regions associated with what you call junk DNA. Dormant genetic material appears linked to neural pathways that remain largely inactive under normal conditions. Most curious. Dave frowned. Inactive neural pathways, like unused potential? An oversimplification, but essentially correct, Elk confirmed. It is as if your species was designed with capabilities that have not yet been activated. That sounds ominous, Dave said, looking between the three aliens. What kind of capabilities are we talking about? Krill's antennae twitched. That remains unclear. Our research is ongoing. However, we have identified specific genetic sequences that appear designed to respond to certain stimuli. Under laboratory conditions, we have managed to temporarily activate some of these sequences in isolated human cell samples, and, Dave prompted, the cells demonstrated remarkable adaptability and previously unobserved functions, Krill stated, including limited bioenergetic emissions and accelerated regenerative properties. Dave blinked, trying to process this. Are you saying humans have what superpowers hidden in our DNA? Salik made a fluid gesture that seemed dismissive. Such terminology is imprecise and colored by your culture's fictional narratives. More accurately, your species appears to possess latent genetic potential that evolved, or was engineered, for purposes we don't yet understand. The Council finds this concerning, Krill added. Species do not typically evolve capabilities they do not need for survival. The presence of such elaborate dormant systems suggests intervention. Dave turned to look back at the stars, trying to absorb the implications. So, I really might be some kind of engineered being. We all might be. But engineered by whom, and why? And if these abilities or whatever are dormant, what's supposed to wake them up? Those, Lyra said quietly, are exactly the questions the Council wants answered. The four of them stood in silence for a moment, the vastness of space stretching out before them, making Dave feel simultaneously insignificant and, strangely, more important than he'd ever felt in his life. I would like to begin more focused. Neural scans? Slick finally said, breaking the silence. With your permission, of course. Dave turned back from the viewport. Do I actually have a choice in any of this? Technically, no. Krill stated bluntly. Protocol 415D authorizes all necessary research procedures. However, willing participation typically yields more accurate results, particularly for neural studies. What Chief Krill means, Lyra interjected with a pointed look at her colleague, is that while you're here, we hope you'll collaborate with us willingly. It will make the process more comfortable for everyone involved. Dave sighed. Fine. Scan my weird human brain with its dormant superpowers. But first, Lyra promised I could try some actual alien food. After 5 days of blue eggs and space peanut butter, I need something different. Selik's scaled brow rose slightly. The human wishes to consume xenobiotic nutrition? Unusual. Most species are instinctively averse to foreign biochemistry. Yeah, well, apparently humans are weird in all sorts of ways, Dave replied. Might as well add adventurous eating habits to the list. I'll take Dave to the galley, Lyra offered. We can proceed with the neural scans afterward. Krill seemed about to object, but then simply nodded. Very well,